Welcome to my very first vlog post. I'm quite excited to start sharing with you this journey. I am both, my name is Tiffany, and I'm both a qualified pharmacist and an educator. Just a disclaimer, the idea of these videos is not to take away the information that you get from your healthcare providers. If you are seeing a general practitioner, a psychologist, psychiatrist, the idea is not to replace any of these. It's really just a video and information that's going to educate and inform you. So I can share my journey with you, and it's going to be as truthful as to where the level I am at. Doing this journey alone is harder. And if we have a community which we can share these things in, it's just going to be so much more helpful. So the first things first I want to talk about is, what is mental health? To understand mental health, I want you to understand that we have a state of well-being. A state of well-being doesn't just talk about our mental health. It talks about our body, our mind, our spirit, our families, our network, our job environment. A state of well-being includes all of that. We are so much more than just one part of health, you know? And health is an important thing that we need to focus on, because the healthier we are, the longer we can enjoy life, the longer we can have happiness and share these with our loved ones. One of my biggest intent in life is to be the best mother, wife, educator that I can be, and to share this with people. I want to have a purpose, and that is what gives me my drive, and that is why I'm starting this vlog, is to share this with you. And I'm hoping that can make a difference. Mental health has got to do with the way that our brains interpret a lot of things. So our brains basically have chemicals that is involved in mental health. And I can tell you that the list of chemicals that's involved in our brains are plenty, but the ones that mostly is associated with depression, anxiety, and mental health is two. And I'm gonna list those two for you, which is serotonin and dopamine. Now, you will hear a lot about dopamine being the reward-seeking chemical of our brain. It's really associated with the hits we get when we do Facebook and Instagram. So when you have screen addiction or you have addiction to alcohol, it's because of this chemical called dopamine. It's a really strong and powerful chemical that we have in our brain. So I want you to understand one thing. Even though we've got chemicals in our brain and our brain interpret things a certain way, we have to have a stimuli for our brain to release chemicals. Now, there's a pathway that happens too. Now, these things, or these stimuli that we have, is things that we feel, that we eat, that we touch, that we see, our environment that we kind of are involved with, the way that we perceive these things. And so what I wanted to say is that those stimulation, the stimuli that we get from somewhere, stimulates a whole neural pathway, and eventually that stimulates our chemicals in our brain. So just to summarize, our mental health is these chemicals or hormones that's released in our body because we have these stimuli and things that we do in our daily life. So when we have genetical issues or we have trauma that is part of the stimuli, we might need extra support and health. And there's a space that you need to go to your GP, your psychologist, psychiatry, but also just to provide you with ways and supplements that you can support or add onto your daily routine. My Instagram post, what I do on these posts is I put daily tips. When I do a blog post or when I do a vlogging, I put these tips there because they're small, powerful tools and habits that can release certain hormones in our bodies when we complete it. So how does dopamine work? Dopamine is a hit that we get literally when we achieve something, when we complete a goal, or when we do a certain thing like mindful writing. When we do these small tips and tools, it seems like, okay, I'm going out with my friends today, but we release these chemicals in our brain that's so important to our mental health, and that's why I post them. If you do these activities, if you listen to these small tips, it seems like, all right, it's a 5-minute thing that I need to do, or something that I can incorporate in my daily life, but they are powerful to make changes, and I've implemented that in my own life. When I went through a mental health struggle, there was a time that I used a general practitioner's advice, and I started implementing these habits and changes, and that has had miraculous changes in my life. Now, if we are mentally not in a position where we're doing our best, where we're not energetic, where we're not focusing, because we're almost so engulfed by the feelings and the depression and the negativity, that we don't experience happiness to the fullest. We don't experience the great things that we can. And when I started implementing these tips, and I started seeing the practitioner and started seeking help and support, it really impacted my life. Now, I'm lucky to say that mine was situational depression. So when my environment changed, a lot of other things around it changed, which was great. And I'm also, now at a place where I'm not using a general practitioner or other medication to support me. I'm literally supplementing and doing the tasks and habits that I've incorporated. And because we have so many options of foods that we take a day, we have a busy lifestyle, it's really hard for us to really make sure that we take in all the supplements and vitamins that we need. That's where we get the mineral and vitamin area that we can go to. And I'm hoping that if I break down these specific vitamins and minerals to you, that you will understand them, and it will help you make a decision when you get to that vitamin aisle and you need to make a decision on what multivitamins I need to take, that can kind of guide you through that pathway. The very first one that I want to talk about is vitamin B complex. A vitamin B complex is really important for our mental health performance. It helps reduce fatigue, and it helps our immune system in general. So if you take a vitamin B, and a really well-rounded vitamin B, it can really help us with that fatigue and feeling of tiredness. That can also just help us perform better. Because one of the things that I experienced when I had my mental health issues is just generally low energy and fatigue during the day. Another one that I want to talk about is vitamin D. We get vitamin D from sunlight in our daily life. Now, I don't know about you, I just look at the weather today. We sometimes don't have access to vitamin D because the sunlight gives it to us. That's why we feel great, because vitamin D is a mood enhancer. And if we are in an environment where we don't have enough sunlight, daily exposure to sunlight. Now, I also want to say that I am very aware of cancers that's associated with sunlight, and that we need to wear sunscreen to make sure that the UV that we get of our bodies is protected. And I am fully aware of the fact that all of us do not have the luxury of being in the sun, because we get things like our very nice spots on our faces, and we want to reduce that. Now, the good news that I have for you is that good vitamin D supplements can help you in this. And it's not only good for our mental health, it's good for bone density, which I will have a whole nother vlog and a discussion about vitamin D and why it's important for women to take. But the good thing about vitamin D, it's a good mood stabilizer. It really helps us feel better, and therefore it's good for us to have vitamin D in our supplements that we take. The third thing that I want to talk about or mention is iron. Iron and energy levels and fatigue, mental health are all entwined with each other. Now, one of the ways that we reduce our iron in our body is during our menstruation cycles. We may lose a little bit of our iron, and we sometimes see a lot of women that struggle with iron deficiency, which is related usually to the menstruation cycle. So with vitamin D and iron supplements or levels, you can test them at your general practitioner, which is important. If you are unsure whether your levels of iron and vitamin D is sufficient, go test them at your general practitioner. It's really something that's helpful, and it can help guide you on the supplements that you need to take and how much you need when you need them. So for that being the guide, go for it. Go for the blood test if you haven't done so. That's a really good pathway for you to take. But what I need you to understand about vitamin D and iron is that sometimes we can overdose having too much vitamin D in our body. So please make sure that you stay within the recommended dose. And if you're not sure whether it's enough, that you go test it. And the same with iron. Our bodies, in the way that we absorb and take in iron, we can sometimes overdose on iron, which this is the one thing we don't want. We don't want to have too little iron in our body, and we don't want too much. So don't go for the highest strength iron from the beginning. If you're unsure about your iron supplement level in your blood levels, generally go to your practitioner to check that out before you decide which supplement to take. I'm going to give a lot of links below this video that can help guide you in some ideas for supplements that you can take. So these are suggestions for you for general women's health. It's not aimed at people who have specific issues. So if you've got a lower iron level than suggested or the norm, then you would have to go to the general practitioner to adjust that dose for your personal needs. Another relaxing powerhouse that I feel is getting a little bit more of attention these days, and I'm really grateful that it's happening, is magnesium. Magnesium helps us relax, it helps our muscles relax, and it helps calm our nervous system. So because we're so calm and relaxed, it also helps our sleeping activity. And if you have a good night's sleep and you have a well-rested night, you can wake up with a lot more energy and feelings the next day. And that's why I suggest you to take something like magnesium on a regular basis. Now, some magnesiums does cause tiredness or fatigue if you take them in the morning, generally because it takes energy to absorb the magnesium. And I don't know if you've realized, but after a nice big meal, you will often feel more exhausted and want to go for a rest. And it's because some of these foods and absorption techniques actually, or absorption mechanisms in our body takes a lot more energy, which can make us feel tired. And this is the case for magnesium. So please make sure that when you buy a magnesium that you go and look at that label and saying when you need to drink your multivitamins. So it's really important for you to know when to take your multivitamin and how to take them. And usually they're indicated by the supplier as the label. So take the time and read the label. Another thing is probiotics. Part of women's health is that we need this microbiome in our gut, and our microbiome is super important in absorbing and making some nutrients in our body that's important for us as building blocks for our immunity, for our mood. And if our microbiome is disturbed, we often get that feeling of anxiety, depression, and not feeling well, feeling unhappiness, just generally tired and irritated. And the big reason for that is because of our microbiome being disturbed. So I want you to make sure that you take in some good probiotics and that you support your digestive system. A lot of people refer to our digestive system as our second brain. And there's a very specific reason for that. Our digestive system is such a fundamental block. If you don't have the ability to absorb your nutrients that you take into your body effectively, you can eat the right foods but not have effective absorption, and that can be very troublesome for you. Selenium is also a powerful antioxidant. It combats that oxidative stress that is produced in our body, and it improves our general immunity. Now, if our immune system is working well, we have more energy available, because the one thing that actually drains our energy is our immune system. That is why when you are sick and really fighting off a germ or a virus or a disease, you feel so exhausted and need to stay in the bed, is because our immune system takes up so much energy. The last one I want to talk about is omega-3. Now, I've isolated omega-3 as a whole blog post on its own for women's health, because I really feel strongly about omega-3 and it being such a good building block for our brain. Now, fatty acids in general, unsaturated fatty acids, is such an important part of what we need to have in our diet. And sometimes we just don't produce enough omega-3 or take it in through our foods that we have. And some dietary restrictions or allergies might also reduce the amount of omega-3 acids that we get into our body. And it's so important for us as women in any phase, whether we are growing, whether we are young women just experiencing menstruation cramps, when we're breastfeeding, during pregnancy, or even menopausal women. During all those phases, omega has so much benefit.